So a great deal of relief, thankfully, that some of these alert levels have been lifted. Let's go to the Civil Defence Minister, Kiri Allan, who joins us on the line. Hello there, Kiri.
Hello.
Yeah, hi.
Kia
Hi,
ora.
team.
How are you?
Well, good. And look, I think you'll all be aware now that we've had that opportunity to be able to say that the alert levels have been downgraded. Those folk that had to evacuate over the course of the day can return back to their homes. So that's a really pleasing sign. I've got to say, though, been so incredibly impressed with the way that New Zealanders have managed the tsunami alerts throughout the course of today. Just showed how cool and calm-headed we can be in a moment of crisis. So I just want to say a big, massive thank you to every single New Zealander that got out there and looked after each other to keep ourselves safe today.
Very nice to hear. Kiri, we heard lots of reports of, traffic congestion, people trying to get out, people trying to get back in, some people going down to the beaches. Did you not get much evidence of that?
Oh, look, there's always going to be a couple of people that, break rules, and, that's why we had police out there, civil defence, but by and large, the response has been pretty positive. There's always going to be a couple of folk that try to get around the system and do what they need to do. But the messaging that came out throughout the course of the day, the role that you and the media have played in terms of getting that messaging out and the way that people responded to the messaging across the board, looking at a system response, I've got to say has been pretty pleasing to see it unfold throughout the course. We had to deal with some pretty big things today. There was three huge earthquakes, an 8.1, a 7.4 and a 7.3 within the space of just hours that had massive ramifications. And New Zealanders, by and large, picked up and did what they needed to do.
That's so good to hear.
Kiri, one of the things that we're getting from folk that are calling into the radio station at ZB here is that there's some weird stuff happening in the water, like tides going out much further than usual and all that sort of stuff. Have you heard any reports at all of any damage, even though patently, thankfully, we haven't had a major tsunami, of course, but has there been any damage at all that you've heard of?
Absolutely. So, look, we are actively monitoring that right now. We haven't had any reports, but of course, assessments have to be done once the alert levels have completely come down. So we're not ruling out that there is damage at this stage. But to date, we've had really limited notification that there has been substantive infrastructure damage or otherwise, which is very, very pleasing. You are right about, if you're watching various channels, you will be able to see the way that the waves are responding in particular areas. And that was exactly what, the science predicted. So really pleased that I guess there is almost a vision for some of us that aren't scientists to understand how these tsunami alert levels work and why practically it's so important that we are ready. We're a coastal island, or islanders as it might be, and we are at a very high threat level or vulnerable to tsunami risks and warnings. So today, if anything, I hope has really highlighted and brought home the fact that we must be ready, must be prepared, and it was pleasing to see just how many New Zealanders were today.
Very good. Kiri, just on that, of course, you're going to get the obligatory texts that say, what an overreaction, same again, nothing to look at, nothing to see here, all that sort of stuff. That unfortunately comes with the territory a little bit, because you're damned if you do, damned if you don't, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I would have to say to that is that always the best thing that we can do is err on the side of caution. Now, when you have an 8.1, a 7.4 and a 7.3 trifecta of earthquakes, and you have operating on science that says, look, this really increases the risk to life, of course we're going to make prudent decisions on that basis. And it's always about trying to strike the balance between the accuracy of the information, which takes time, whilst also balancing that with the timing considerations and getting communications out to people clearly and concisely. So I think over the course of the day and how we've seen the system operate, from my perspective, has been pretty pleasing. There's always room for improvement. And of course, like any major incident, we'll be reflecting on and we'll be undertaking a review of what's happened today and whether everything's been fit for purpose. but stepping back and looking across the system at a high level, got to say it's worked pretty well today, is what I think the takeaway is, and that really has been banked on the way that people have behaved.
Kiri, one of the things, as we've mentioned, and as you mentioned when we started chatting with you, people can go back to their homes now. Why is it still important for people to stay away from beaches?
Yeah, absolutely. So basically for a large, vast tracts of New Zealand right now, it is still, if you look at the map, kind of coloured green, which says that basically we can expect that there will still be tidal changes between 0.3 up to 1 metre high. So that it means that the tides are going to react and respond quite differently than what they ordinarily do. So for anyone that's thinking they might be able to go out there and catch a cheeky wave or, go take advantage of the sea while there aren't too many other crafts out there, please don't do that. Not today. We don't want anybody putting their lives at risk or putting other people's lives at risk by having to go out there and save you. So just still take care.
Very good. And last thing, Kiri, because this was your first, basically your first big sort of, task as Civil Defence Minister. Can you just tell us quickly on a personal level, how were you notified? Did you feel anything and got up quickly? How did it all unfold for you?
Yeah, I did feel the jolt at about 2:29 this morning, that first one. And then I was notified almost straight away by my National Director, Roger Ball, for the National Emergency Management Agency. And then from that point on, basically, it was all hands to the deck, managing messaging. Obviously, it's in my patch as well. So managing correspondence with all of your local authorities, civil defence groups, volunteer agencies who are out there on the floor, and doing checks of the environment to make sure that things were okay, and if not, then pulling alerts where we needed to. But so it's been a busy morning, but it has been for most New Zealanders, I think, as we've all had to respond to the messages that have been coming through. So just a big thank you again to the way that people have responded.
Good on you.
Good on you.
Kiri, ka kite anō, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Cheers, team.
Bye.